Hey everyone, welcome to this weekly Sidereal Astrology forecast for the week of January 6th through the 12th of 2025. All right, so a bit of a mild week astrologically, but still some important things to talk about. First of all, we are going to be in the first quarter moon coming into the week, which means that we are in the action phase of the lunar month, which started about a week ago. So anything that you do want to take action towards, maybe challenge yourself with to move forward, can be particularly a good early part of the week here, especially if you set any intentions or notice any new things surfacing in your life since about that week ago. Now, Mercury will be also squaring up to Neptune on Monday, so our minds are going to be a bit in the ethers, maybe feeling a little bit under the influence, if you will, maybe an over-under extreme with that imagination or uncertainty. And so anything that grounds that watery energy, such as maybe developing our intuition, maybe imagination, maybe spiritual exercises or more spiritual approach to life can be great with this. So grounding and concretizing that more watery, intuitive, spiritual, receptive energy of life can be really good this early part of the week. Now, this is a Mercury that's starting to shift into expansive Sagittarius, so our minds are certainly going to get more into the open-mindedness, maybe adventurousness, maybe seeing the bigger picture with things as the week unfolds. And we could even notice some of that coming through in our communications as well. Midweek, the sun will be squaring Chiron, maybe some things that we can challenge ourselves regarding healing, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, could be a good middle part of the week for healing. And then the week ends with Mars, who's retrograde. Mars, the planet of assertiveness, is going to be in a good harmony, a good trine with that watery Neptune. So we could find it maybe easy to go with the flow towards the weekend, maybe a little bit more healthier receptivity and compassion and things like this. So there's a nice support there with Mars and Neptune around the Saturday, Sunday time. All right, so let's go and take a look at all of this here in more detail when we return. Alrighty, so here is the sky for this week. We're going to look at this for each day of the week, starting first with Monday, January 6th. And as you can see here, we are using the visible sky on this channel, which is very different from mainstream astrology. You won't see this in mainstream because unfortunately they are, in the West at least, using a seasonal system. And so the signs are going to be very different from what you're hearing here today. So if you are new to the channel or if you're new to true Sidereal Astrology, I invite you to check out the link down below for more information. And if this all sounds interesting to you, subscribe to the channel and sign up for the newsletter. Check out masteringthezodiac.com and sign up for the newsletter where we do have this kind of content, extra content, and of course our weekly live stream, which we are going to be attending here in just a few hours after this upload every Sunday. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of a recap here. We do have that sign change with Mercury here this week, but we do have the sun in Sagittarius, and this is where we've had this new beginning a week ago. So it is still early, let's say, in the lunar month, but definitely really good now coming into the week to focus more on that, healthfully expanding our horizons. Sagittarius is all about seeing the bigger picture. It's all about having that more spirited view of life. What is our spirit guiding us towards? Where do we feel that sense of open range kind of freedom that Sagittarius is about? And with that can come adventurousness, again, open-mindedness, and just a willingness to kind of see that bigger picture. So anything that is in that realm, of course, is the great time of the year to cultivate this. And again, with the first quarter moon coming into the week, really implementing this is great. Mercury will be shifting into this as well, joining up to the sun here. And so as the week unfolds, certainly us starting to think more in this world and likely communicate more in this world as well. Again, maybe thinking a bit bigger picture, open-minded, maybe inspirations or opportunities that we could be perceiving. And then communicating in a way that's maybe more philosophical, more abstract, more theories, possibilities, potentials, right, coming through in those everyday interactions. So this is a Mercury who's coming out of that deeper world where he's been in Ophiuchus. So even though we have kind of a good opportunity, I think, for healing maybe just around Thursday, we are definitely coming out of that deeper, more healing world where Mercury has been and where Mercury went retrograde here recently. So definitely a shift out of that sort of cocoon and more into that, higher sort of butterfly out of the cocoon sort of energy, at least mentally and communicatively, with Mercury here. Venus is well set in Aquarius, so it's great to be connecting to life and relationships in a way that's a bit progressive, a bit forward thinking, and maybe in a way that's sort of collective as well, in the sense of maybe, smaller collective, like connecting with friends, group, community can be really good with Venus here, but also the world at large. What can we contribute to that's larger than ourselves? And it doesn't have to be all extroverted, social like that either. It can be, individual things or internal things that we contribute to the world or to something greater or that's innovative or technological, that Aquarius is all about. So it's all about seeing the value of this innovative and future-oriented energy of Aquarius, but perhaps if it does come through again in those connections, I think it's great to be connecting with others in this more future-oriented sort of way. Now Mars is of course still retrograde and in Cancer, very slow here, the slowest of the personal planets, and so still good to be really receptive to how we're taking action right now, making sure we're taking those steps back as needed, reflecting a little bit on what's important to us intrinsically. Mars is what we want, it's our desires, it's our egos, but retrograde, and especially in Cancer, is about connecting more to our intrinsic values. And so making sure that we are kind of reconnecting there to our internal world, our emotional world, our personal world, when it does come to who we are and what we want. And maybe, kind of reflecting on some of this or taking a little bit of a back seat can be helpful with that Mars retrograde. All right, so we do have quite mixed energy there. We've got some fire, we've got some air, we've got some water. And coming into the week, we do have the moon again in that first quarter, but from here in Pisces, right? So Pisces naturally is a square with Sagittarius. So when we're talking about expanding those horizons right now, especially these first couple days while we're in this first quarter, it's really good to do that in a way that's still receptive. So the moon in Pisces, Monday and Tuesday, is all about connecting to our more receptive approach to life. So being more of a receiver of life. While Sagittarius is more yang, and that's again great to focus on, again, more action oriented, right? It's more fire, it's more free spirited. Here with Pisces connecting with our soul and receiving from life in constructive ways. So how can we healthfully go with the flow a little bit here while listening to that spirit? How can we healthfully connect to our intuition while listening to that spirit, and perhaps challenging ourselves to, take a little bit of a more, again, yin or receiving or kind of going with the flow sort of approach to life. So it could be really good for things like spiritual activities, maybe imagination, creativity, intuition, things like that. And especially because Mercury will be squaring Neptune while we have this as well. So again, Mercury is our minds and communications, and in this square to Neptune can really go to extremes with that watery sort of Piscean spiritual energy. So we could be a little under the influence here. We could be maybe getting caught up into dreams, ideals. We could even go to the other extreme, which is maybe feeling a bit apathetic or not like anything is meaningful or spiritual in life. So we want to make sure this is constructive. And again, some great ways of doing this is maybe some spiritual activities, maybe grounding and channeling some of that intuition or imagination. And even in our communications as well, practicing a little bit of maybe acceptance or compassion there. So just again, healthfully, constructively working with that more etheric world, that unconscious, that spiritual world, so that's healthy and intentional. All right, but it can be very constructive here with this. It can be, again, an excellent time for connecting more with our soul, connecting more to our intuition, connecting more to our healthy imagination in constructive ways here. All right, so good early part of the week to really challenge ourselves, again, in that first quarter moon as well. Now, when we do get to midweek, so Wednesday and Thursday here, the moon will be in Aries, and so the theme will likely be around taking initiative. I think midweek we'll be starting to build a little bit of momentum here from that more integration of the first quarter. And in this case, maybe some themes around some of that action and initiative. Again, with Mars retrograde, we still want to be a bit flexible with who we are and what we want and what we're pursuing. But of course, really good to do this middle part of the week nonetheless. Now, the sun will be squaring up to Chiron. This is quite minor, but since there's nothing else really going on here this middle part of the week, with the aspects at least, maybe some healing. So this could be physical, emotional, spiritual, mental, any intentions you want to set around healing, or maybe just diving deep with some things in life. Can be very constructive. And again, we want to set that intention to do it. Naturally, we could maybe feel some wounds or some inhibitions, some, maybe traumas or triggers that could come up naturally with this square. I don't think it's anything major. Usually with Chiron, it's that it's all very internal, and we're actually usually really good with the things that we might be feeling a bit insecure or wounded about. So know that there is that whatever it is, if anything does come up, that you are naturally really good at it. It doesn't mean that it's anything external necessarily. And by maybe moving through some of those wounds or moving through some of those inhibitions, it can be very healing and very rejuvenating, and this is what Chiron really helps us do. And with the sun, it might have to do with self-expression. It might have to do with, again, listening to more of that fire or spirit for life. So maybe doing some of that stuff in the face of any wounds can be also particularly very good collectively here. All right, so that's midweek here, there with a little bit of that kind of theme around more of the fire energies, but also healing in that context. Now, as we start to get into the weekend, so late Thursday and through Saturday, the moon will be in Taurus. So we get a little bit more of a grounding energy, and this is an easier energy for the moon to work with. So anything that's about connecting to the more stable, more resourceful, more grounded elements of life, again, the later part of the week is absolutely fantastic. And then here we start to build that momentum coming up to the full moon, which will be very early next week. And this tends to be a little bit more of a momentum building phase. And again, getting into the highest energy phase of the lunar month. Now, as we do get into Sunday, as we get closer to Sunday, but I would say all weekend, Mars, that planet of assertiveness, is going to be in a good harmony with where we're having a little bit of clashes earlier in the week with Neptune. So Neptune in good harmony with Mars. So this can actually make it quite easy, or at least easier, to go with the flow a little bit, to have more receptivity, to have more compassion. We can feel like our drives and where we're putting energy is in alignment with where the universe or life is sort of guiding us. And so it can be a little bit more receptive here and a little bit more connected to our spiritual needs or our soul needs when it does come to that outer world, or when it does come to that more egocentric world that we can certainly be operating within. So it's not all forward movement. This is the middle contact. The first contact with this was back on October 28th. So if there was anything in late October that you feel like you could be making a nice step in the right direction with in this context, I think this could be great. But it is the middle contact. The last one will be on April 19th. And so these middle contacts are more about learning and reflection, and that's because Mars is retrograde in the middle contact here. So again, internalizing a little bit, reflecting a little bit, but nice to see that there's a little bit of harmony there when it comes to some of those fiery energies of life. The moon will be in Gemini on Sunday. So Sunday specifically, maybe some themes around some of that communication, learning, and more mental or practical sort of approach to life here. And maybe very late Sunday, we've got a little bit more of a support here with the sun trine Uranus, maybe feeling a little bit free, a little bit unorthodox, a little bit like mixing things up a little bit, which can come a bit easy. All right, so that's the week in a nutshell. I went into depth with all of this, but we don't need to overcomplicate it. Really, it is quite simple. Coming into the week, we do have that integration phase of the lunar cycle. Good to challenge ourselves. We may come to our first challenges of the lunar month here early part of the week, but again, challenging ourselves to implement, to integrate, to move forward. And I would say one of the great ways of doing that is with the watery elements of life, both because the moon will be in Pisces in the first quarter and Mercury will be squaring Neptune. So we can have a bit of that under the influence kind of energy, but how can we constructively work with that influence, I think, is the main theme. Honestly, the middle part of the week is quiet, but if there is anything that you do feel like would be healing for you, especially if it's moving through any wounds, middle part of the week is available. It could be a very good way of working with that middle part. And then as we get to the second half, we are building more of that momentum, coming up to the highest energy of the lunar month, and we start to get into a little bit more of an easier kind of supportive energy here, especially when it comes to those watery elements that may have been challenged early in the week. So a little bit more receptive, a little bit easier to go with the flow. Things like compassion coming through a little bit easier. Maybe mixing things up a little bit here on Sunday could also be quite supportive. All right, so everyone have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for the live stream, which will be in just here in a few hours. And yeah, thank you again for all of your support, and I'll see you all next time for the next astrology forecast. Take care.